Soldiers and factions catching action.
Yeah, so like you said, Adam, the last match of the evening.
Yeah, so this was a men's singles match that was teased earlier in the night, which sees Jimmy Uso versus The Miz. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't. If you're going to look at this as the main event match of the evening, I really don't think it was strong enough to do that.
I don't think any of the matches that we've had on the card were really strong enough to be a main event match. I mean,
I'm going to argue the toss with you for that one.
I knew you were going to because you're a pedantic motherfucker.
Yeah, 100% I am. If you take the ending out and they were allowed to properly go the distance, Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre could have easily taken that main event slot and would have been an absolute frigging bomb. But
actually, yeah, good shout. Good shout. Yeah, no, fair enough. But then saying that the Strowman LA Knight match could have been if you removed the interference from Jacob Fatu. So yeah, no, all right. I take back my previous statement. But yeah, so we ended up going into this match, and to be fair, I didn't really get a lot from it. All I really got was more the fact that Jimmy slapped Miz into timekeeping when he was on the outside, leaning up against the barrier. Yeah, Jimmy gave him a slap and sent him over the barrier into timekeeping, and that was the receipt for the one he was due in the corridor earlier. I did get that Miz dropped Jim with a clothesline and went to go for the skull-crushing finale, but Big Jim reversed it, and after a trade-off of a couple of moves, there was I think it was a trade-off of roll-ups, to be fair. They were finished with Big Jim getting a broken-up 2 count, and after the kick-outs from sort of both men, there was a point where you've got Big Jim kneeling down and Miz was teeing off on his chest with some rather nasty kicks. And then my favourite section of the evening, I'm not entirely sure why Miz did this, and I don't think he did this on purpose, but Miz jumped off the top rope to perform what I presume was supposed to be like a phenomenal forearm style thing, but he ended up eating a big old bowl of super kick from Jimmy Uso, and then eating a rather large serving of a frog splash off the top rope as well, for the 3 count for Big Jim to take the win on this one, for him to then run over to announce table, stand on the announce table and grab at the spare headset that was on the table, and cut himself a nice little promo to the crowd.
Yeah, and this was him talking basically about how he plans to demote Gunther from Ring General to Ring Private next week on SmackDown. Which,
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
He even said he was going to make him salute him, which I thought was even better.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, couldn't really knock him for anything that he said there. And yeah, I couldn't help but feel and think, and I know that again, I rag on the Miz quite a lot, and it's because I just don't. I do have to wonder at what point does the Miz just give it up? He's not getting anywhere near. He's not getting another push.
He's made enough money. It could just be a case of he's running out his contract. If he's got a 3-4 year contract that he's signed and he's still got 2.5 years left on it. For an example, I don't know what Miz's contract is looking like, but yeah, this could just be him just rolling out his time, taking his paycheck until the end, and then kind of going, you know what? Yeah, cool, I'm done. I'm fed up of seeing. I mean, you know what? I say I'm fed up of seeing the Miz. If you take the Miz away, if the Miz retired, I think I would probably miss talking about him because I'd have no one else to rag on because Charlotte Flair would have been gone at the same time too.
Yeah, and this
Who
is
will
how I
we
feel
rag
about
on when we lose the Miz and Charlotte Flair?
We've still got Drew McIntyre. We're
We
fine.
do still have Drew McIntyre. That is correct. I'd forgotten about
Speaking
the
of
Scottish
which,
crybaby. We see him next, don't we?
we do. He's in a backstage promo now. First up, he's walking through backstage, obviously quite pleased with himself.
He's as proud as punch, that
He
motherfucker, isn't he?
ends up meeting up with Lewis Capaldi, who we did find out earlier on is apparently a big Drew McIntyre fan. Now,
It's
I am
unfortunate,
going to
really.
be the one. I've seen again. I've been reading online articles, and there is an article making the rounds at the moment, which makes the comparison that since the parent company of UFC have taken over WWE, we're
Oh,
seeing a lot
TKO.
more. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more celebrity appearances on weekly television shows,
Yeah,
which we
normally it's
wouldn't.
saved for PLEs, and now
Yeah,
we're getting it pushed a lot
and
more.
they're making it see, and the article states basically that it's making it seem more and more like a UFC show, like a UFC event where you see all the stars litter in the front row and then everybody else is shoved to the back, sort of thing.
I mean, if WWE would like to start introducing ring girls to the equation like the UFC did, there would be no complaints from me.
Yeah, it's called the women's division.
No, they are talented superstars, Adam. You cannot define them like that. They have feelings too, apparently.
Well, but oh dear.
So
Um,
Drew's having a conversation with Lewis Capaldi and basically says, "Look, mate, you go and enjoy the rest of the show. I'm off to the
I'll meet
pub.
you.
This is where
I'll
I'm
meet you in the
going.
pub.
Let's go." And Lewis is like, "Cracking, brilliant, mate. I'll see you for a pint later," and wanders back off. And Drew goes in the opposite direction. He then runs into a lovely young lady by the name of Jackie Redmond,
Mm-hmm.
who basically says, "Hey, Drew, while you got a second, I know you're off to the pub, but you know, give me your thoughts on tonight." And he goes, "Well, look what happens when no one fucks with me. I win." And Damian Priest didn't show up after I called him out last week, so basically, fuck him. I'm off for a pint. And as he opens the door, and who should be stood the other side of the door but the guy liner wearing Timu version of The Undertaker, who, as in previous weeks, said that when he sees Mr. McIntyre, it will be on site. And on site it was, my good sir, because Damian
100%.
Priest opened up a can of whoop ass and he emptied that can all over the little section of the parking lot they were in, including at one point bashing Drew McIntyre's head off the back of a rather nice BMW, which we're not going to go into too much. It was when the gentleman who owns the BMW, apparently, obviously this is probably a local performer or someone they've borrowed that's backstage, knows how to take a bump. Basically comes out and goes, "Oi, that's my car." And Damian Priest's response is basically, "I don't
Put him to the
care,"
table.
and puts him through a table. Yeah. And to be fair, yeah, he dropped him through the table. He then goes back to dealing with the Scottish crybaby, who ends up at one point. They both end up stood on the bonnet of this BMW. Now they are in a massive car park environment. There are lots of things they could be beating each other up with, but they are stood on top of the bonnet of the BMW. It basically just punching each other. Until Damian Priest pops out a rather spectacular South of Heaven, on Drew McIntyre and pops him into the windscreen of the vehicle, which subsequently pops. And then we see Damian Priest crouch over him and just give him a little bit of verbal and disappear. And we hear Drew shouting that he's got a little bit of glass in his eye as officials and medical personnel come running to his assistance. And as he is lying on the bonnet of this BMW out in the underneath car park, we get a shot of the second City Saint CM Punk walking through with his security en route to the ring or backstage, ready for his contract signing with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns for their triple threat match at WrestleMania in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, so it's important to realise that the each member. So we've had. We may not have necessarily talked about them overly much, but at different points during the event tonight, it has been a case that we have seen small little VTs of each of the three superstars involved in that triple threat. So Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk, all of them arriving separately, surrounded by security. And this was put in place by, or we're led to believe this is put in place by Nick Aldis, basically because apparently they can't keep their hands to themselves.
Which is true. They can't. They like to fight, and we like to watch them fight. And quite frankly, I don't want to wait until WrestleMania to watch these three fight. I want to go back to last week where they were brawling everywhere. I want to watch that again. I want to see that every week until WrestleMania. And then at WrestleMania, I want to watch them do it on the grandest stage of them all with all the weapons they can possibly use.
Yeah, you're not going to get that.
No, I'm not, but I know what I want, and I can voice it. You never know. There could be a few weapons involved somewhere.
But the reason I've brought up about the security is because it comes into play a little bit in the next few moments. Before we move on to the final item in tonight's show, that we do get a VT promo recapping John Cena's promo from Monday Night Raw. If you really want to hear about that again, you can go back to our episode coverage of Monday Night Raw, where we talk about it in great detail. What we don't talk about in great detail, however, is what happens next. Now, next we join Nick Aldis in ring, who is presiding over. I say presiding in the loosest sense of the term, as he's basically there as an extra warm body in the ring. After he's introduced what happens next, which is the WrestleMania contract signing for the triple threat between Reigns, Rollins, and Punk.
Yep.
And the first one to make his way out into the ring is the one true tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
Accompanied by the wise man, Paul Fatman Heyman.
Yeah, and you know what? Roman Reigns seems to spend more time during this promo just enjoying how much admiration he gets.
I mean, he was being acknowledged. The tribal chief was being acknowledged by the London crowd.
Certainly was. He most certainly was. And yeah, he gets given a mic, asks London to acknowledge him, and then thanks them for serenading him, which just makes them sing more.
This time,
standard for
he managed to get
crowd.
Paul Heyman to be sat there singing Roman Reigns, Roman.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was an advantage.
Reigns. I don't know. I thought it was quite a good touch, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong, because it plays into something else that happens a little bit later on. But basically, after this little sit down with Roman Reigns and the WWE Universe, Roman puts pen to paper and signs the contract. Pretty much as soon as the pen leaves the paper, we hear "burn it down."
Now, I think I have noticed something to do with Seth Rollins. I believe during his entrance music on this one, they've extended it a little bit because of the length of the ramp in the arena, and they've added a little drum bit in the middle that is not normally there. I'm
Ah.
95% sure they've added something or changed it slightly, as it did not feel the way it normally feels.
I mean, the entrance ramp for this London event was actually shorter than some of the ones they've had on the European tour so far.
Oh, I mean, I don't know, something about this entrance, his music by Seth Rollins, it just seemed a little bit different.
I gotta admit, I didn't pick up on anything, so
Have a little look
I'll
and then get back to me. I think it was
yeah,
slightly different.
I think I may have to do that in fairness. But yes, we see Seth Rollins is the next one to come out, accompanied by his security detail that have been following him around all night, in exactly the same way that when Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman came out, their security detail came out with them as well. So we now have two lots of security out surrounding the ring, with two of the three combatants in the triple threat match for WrestleMania. And
The one thing I did make a note of is for once, Seth Rollins didn't come out dressed like a twat. He had a reasonably normal suit on.
I mean, about as normal as you can get for Seth Rollins'
Yeah,
wardrobe.
but it wasn't as out there as his last few outfits have been. Pretty sure him and Sam Smith share a wardrobe, you know.
That wouldn't shock me in the slightest. But yeah, so Seth Rollins, during his entrance, actually ends up giving Paul Heyman a chance to sing along with his crowd interaction as well, to which honestly Paul Heyman just looks horrified at the
The
thought
look
of
on
it.
Paul Heyman's face looked like Seth Rollins had just taken a shit on his shoe and then rubbed his nose in it. Like, Paul Heyman looked disgusted at the fact that Seth Rollins had the audacity to be like, "You're going to come and go, whoa, 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 whoa." Yeah,
But
you know what I mean?
this was pretty much the only time during this promo that we actually saw Seth Rollins himself smile.
Yes.
Um, so Seth comes out, talks about his and Roman's history, about the fact that 12 years ago,
Yep, they came into this exact same arena via helicopter as the Shield, with obviously that was Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and the one that shall not be named, who currently works in AEW under the name of John Moxley, that of course being Dean Ambrose, who ironically is not mentioned at all in this series of exchanges between Roman and Seth.
no, because he's not relevant.
No, he's not. But I thought they might have brought him up when they said about, coming in on the helicopter, the three of them, the Hounds of Justice, coming down through the crowd. But yeah, no mention of Dean Ambrose at all.
And yeah, basically sort of summarizes it all to Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns' past being, what was the words he used? A little bit of love and a whole lot of hate.
Yep.
Which I actually quite liked. I thought that was quite poetic.
Very
personally.
fitting, to be fair. And that's also something I made a note of. Seth Rollins also said they accomplished their mission, to which Roman replies basically, "I'm hearing a lot of we, and we died a long time ago, and since then it's really only been him." This was basically This was the battle of the narcissist, really. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins both have a massive ego. And when the two of them bump foreheads, and both of them have rather large foreheads and receding hairlines, it is normally a loud, hollow doink. And that's pretty much what you got from these two, is just a lot of doink.
Yeah. And from there, it sort of degrades into, well, you've done this and you've done that and all the rest of it, because Seth Rollins starts talking about how, in which case, Roman Reigns is responsible for allowing CM Punk back into the fold, sort of thing. And
He allowed the snake back into the garden, is how he phrased it.
he did.
And Seth Rollins yet again has to come and clear up Roman Reigns' mess. Yeah, the last time there was any mess and the two of them were involved, it was actually Seth trying to help Cody give Roman some mess to deal with. Payback, so to speak.
Yeah, this is it. And but it's at this point that Seth Rollins again puts pen to paper and signs the contract.
He does.
Which again, it's almost as if as soon as Seth Rollins's pen left the page, it was a case that we were then
Treated to
melodic.
the entry music of the second City Saint, Mr. CM Punk.
Yes,
Ooh,
very much so. And
came out with
he
mic in
makes
hand.
he makes his entrance accompanied by yet more security.
Yeah, so at this point we
Um,
have 15 members of security, Nick Aldis, and 3 pro wrestlers, all in very
and
close
Paul Heyman.
proximity. And Paul Heyman, yes. And then if you want to be really pernickety about it, we also have Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore at ringside. And we know Wade Barrett knows how to handle himself in these situations. He's been in many himself. But yeah, Mr. Punk comes down and it says he is here to chew bubblegum and sign a contract. He then spits his gum out and goes, I'm all out of gum. So basically
I just
hinting,
love the fact that it was a Duke Nukem reference, and
yep,
I'm not going to lie, the biggest smile came across my face when he did it. It was the one thing I didn't expect.
no, it's definitely not. But it was a good funny moment from CM Punk. So Punk comes in and starts reading the contract, and Roman's like, "Come on, dude, go to page 4, clause 5, hurry up, we're on TV." And then Roman's getting impatient. Punk's
Yeah,
reading this contract. He wants to make sure that what he wants to be in that contract is in that contract. We don't know at this point what it is that he wants in that contract, but he wants something in there. And basically, Roman Reigns says to Paul Heyman, "Look, mate, go and fucking give him the skinny. Go and tell him what's going on, and let's get this party started." At which Paul Heyman kind of gets up out of his kneeling position, walks round to CM Punk and kneels down and says to him that he knows what he's looking for, and it is in the contract. Basically, he is told that this year the match between Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and himself, once he's signed that contract, will be the main event of WrestleMania, and that Punk is getting to live his dream of being a WrestleMania main eventer. And at this point, CM Punk's got the one thing that he's always wanted, even from his first run within the company. What he wanted was to main event WrestleMania, because he knows that he is good enough to do so. We also know that he's good enough to do so, and this time he's not having his opportunity stolen off him from The Rock. But
I find it incredible that somebody like CM Punk has
never done it, right?
Yeah,
But then we think he
like
had a 10-year gap that he wasn't in pro wrestling for, that a lot of us forget. It's as though he's been there forever. because
he
he's
was there for a
CM Punk.
really long time on his first run,
He was.
and at no point did he ever like that. I find that nigh on unbelievable that CM Punk at no point in history has ever main evented WrestleMania.
Well, he was
This is
supposed
the
to the
guy that,
one year with his match against Undertaker, but Rock came back and stole his main event spot.
yeah,
That's what. Yes, why he was so pissed, wasn't it?
yeah, this
So
is
you
it.
know, he is
This is the
told
guy
that
that
he
this is the guy that ran off with the WWE title,
right.
and like, yeah, it's such an iconic character within WWE and wrestling as a whole, and he's never main evented WrestleMania until this year.
Where
That
people like the
is
Miz
mind-boggling.
have, and yeah, like some weird combinations. You think Punk should have been in there. So he was supposed to have been with his match against Undertaker, but he got knocked down due to Rock coming back in. So
Yeah,
we basically get told that Punk is finally going to be a WrestleMania main eventer, and Seth Rollins is fucking pissed. Basically tells CM Punk to stop crying. He does not deserve it, and really starts going off on one about how main eventing WrestleMania is sacred to him and how it means more to him than anything. And basically, CM Punk don't deserve it, and it's all Roman's fault. At which
well,
point,
Roman sat there feeling pretty pleased with himself because he seems to think that he's fulfilled the favor that Paul Heyman owes to CM Punk, and then sort of overplays his hand a little bit. Um,
right,
so Punk's actually quite emotional at this news. I mean, it's been his dream.
right,
He's realizing a dream. This is an emotional time for anybody, and he's thanking the fans and everybody else that chants his name, that's believed in him and everything. It starts sounding a bit like an Oscar acceptance speech,
yeah,
um, and then Roman Reigns basically interrupts and says, "Hang on, them fuckers have got nothing to do with it. That was all me. I want you to acknowledge me as your tribal chief." And in fairness, CM Punk does do just that.
he does.
He sits there, he bends the knee, acknowledges the tribal chief, thanks him implicitly for pretty much everything, really draws him in, and then literally in the closing seconds of the broadcast just says, "That's not the favor that I'm owed."
Oh,
And
yeah,
literally that was SmackDown out.
it was, and that was the last note I had as well. Um, so yeah, what a cliffhanger! I cannot wait for Chicago next week, which is obviously CM Punk's hometown, like I mentioned earlier. He's left that on a pipe bomb style thing. What is going to go down in Chicago, I do not know, but I cannot wait to watch it.
Yeah, and this is it. And this is the end of SmackDown's European tour on this occasion. So
It is.
this was the last stop. As Rich has mentioned on a couple of occasions, we are SmackDown is back in Chicago, back at its normal time on Netflix at about 1 a.m. UK time. And yeah, I mean, this doesn't stop our coverage of it at all. We will be back next week with Finishes and Factions does Friday Night SmackDown, but next episode that we will be coming out with is Finishes and Factions does Monday Night Raw, and this will also be from the London O2 Arena. So uh, WWE in fact not moving very far, if at all, over the weekend, and yeah, we look forward to bringing you all the coverage for that one.
Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you for joining me again, and everyone that's listening, also thank you for joining us and bearing with us on our escapades as we discuss everything that we can think of wrestling related that the ADHD means we have to discuss. But yeah, no, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all in the next episode. Peace out.
100%. Yeah.